Hello YouTube, this is Miram and this is a follow-up video to the route planning video that I had made just previously, addressing some additional or supplemental information about alternate airports as well as looking at airspaces. I feel like this is important enough to make another video kind of supporting the video that I had made previously, and so today we're going to be looking at the possibility of alternate airports and being situationally aware of where they are in accordance to the flight plan, as well as looking at how the aircraft traverses through different airspaces and being aware of who to contact when. So let's go ahead. If you haven't checked out part one, we made this operational flight plan in it, and I highly suggest you do watch that video. Otherwise, this video kind of uh, starts abruptly, but go ahead and watch it. I'll link it in the description below. It's right here. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and start looking at alternate airport information. So we used SimBrief to plan the flight, and here it is. So SimBrief has a really nice tool at the bottom. I do apologize that it's stuttery, but SimBrief has this tool, this map tool right here, that shows us the flight route, kind of like a preview. But if you click on this airport icon and then filter with ETOPS on, it's going to show you these black rings like this. And it'll show you these little dots. These little dots are suitable airports that we can divert this 747 to. Now, we're not an ETOPS flight. We are a 4-engine aircraft, and our route at all times is within 60 minutes of a suitable airport. But we want to use this function on SimBrief in order to find where alternate airports are. So just in case, for example, if we're flying somewhere out here, if we're flying by waypoint 55 north, 150 west, and we have a hydraulic failure or something major, something that will warrant us to have an en route alternate or diversion to another airport, then to know which airports that we have to go to is what we will do with this chart. So essentially you can click on these little circles and it will show you the airport name, the airport ICAO code, and the runway length there, and if it's ILS approved. So, or how many approaches are ILS. So, first of all, I do apologize that my laptop fan is kicking up. But anyway, as we can see on our flight route here, in areas where we're close to land, to the continuous United States, we do have airports like Seattle, San Francisco as our suitable diversion airports, and we do have Vancouver there in case. Once we get up to the more northern part of our flight, we do have airports like Ketchikan or Juneau, Alaska, that will be good alternate airports for us. Then once we get over Alaska and the Aleutian Islands, we have Cold Bay, Kodiak, and Anchorage as suitable airports. And then once we're by Russia, oh, we also have Adak right there. And then once we get by Russia, we do have UHPP. Well, I don't really know how to say that, but I'm not going to try. That's a suitable airport. Then from there, we have airports on the northern coast of Japan. Then we'll have Tokyo coming in over Japan, and then to Seoul. So just knowing where these airports are, knowing the names and where we would expect them really helps Enroute before we go to the alternates page in the FMC and recalibrate our route, etc., etc. If we have some sort of like an engine failure or something out here and that demands us to come back, then if we're by, like, for example, waypoint Kramer, then we know that Adak is going to be the closest airport. It's just a situational awareness and a supplement to route analysis. Now, that leads me to the next topic, which is going to be oceanic airspace and coverage. This aircraft and our flight route will cross through many large oceanic airspaces. And this is the Pacific, a photo of the Pacific I found from the Flight Gear forums, but there's also the Atlantic, there's also the Indian Ocean, there's also polar airspaces, and they all have their own designated airspaces. Our flight today will leave SoCal departure and will be handed off to NorCal, and then from NorCal will be handed over to Oakland Oceanic. Now, Oakland Oceanic manages, as you can see, a very large part of the Pacific Ocean, and they will be in contact with the aircraft until we reach a point where we leave their airspace and we're then handed to Anchorage Oceanic, where we continue flying. That handoff has to be coordinated on a correct time with a correct amount of fuel on board, and making sure that we fly at the right speed, the right altitude, and all the nitty-gritty details that we probably won't be covering in an offline flight. But if you were to fly on VATSIM or IVAO or any of those cross-the-pond events, then having this knowledge is incredibly important. You can then we'd continue flying through Anchorage Oceanic before coming back into the Tokyo FIR there, which will then guide us all the way to South Korean airspace, which will then give we would then be handed off to Incheon and then to the airport tower for landing. So that kind of just is an introduction to airspaces. This is by no means a comprehensive tutorial about the different types of airspaces, but this is just something that we need to know, especially if you're going to go ahead and participate in cross the Pacific or cross the pond events on VATSIM, IVAO, or even if you just want to enhance your realism in the flight sim. The last thing I have here is a really nice PDF, which is kind of like a syllabus to Pacific Oceanic crossing, and this is from VATSIM, as you can see in the URL. I'll leave this in the link in the description. But it's a very comprehensive guide that I found to what speed, what altitude, how do you do communications, and where are all these different airspaces, and generally like a general idea of what to do. But I just found that knowing that and also knowing where diversion airports are located is really good supplemental information to your route, and it makes you more of a proactive pilot in the case that you do have random failures enabled in your sim. Anyway, I hope that kind of helped with kind of discussing alternate airports and different airspaces. Be sure to please check out the first video because it's much more comprehensive, teaches you how to make flight plans, how to build routes, and how to manage fuel calculations and payload, etc. And so I hope you find these useful, hope they are important, and hopefully I'll make some 47 tutorials and other ones in the future. Thank you and take care.